And indeed, if you leave it to the engineers who are responsible for the design of these cars, it's all about braking distances and turning ratios and things that are as profoundly particular as safety is to general. And the truth of the brand, if you will, falls in the kind of Death Valley between them. So there's something about capturing the tenderness of this moment between father and daughter that I think sort of gives us, in the most vivid way possible, an understanding of why safety matters.
What does that example show us about what a traditional, in quotations, ad can do that social media can't do?
Well, I think, those 15 seconds or the 30 seconds of the traditional TV spot are interesting as cultural artifacts, not least because in the right hands, in the hands of a creative at an advertising agency, quite remarkable things can be made to happen, controlling the image and the sound, and telling a story. Even in these very compressed circumstances, the meaning maker, the ad maker, is capable of these astoundingly kind of powerful cultural artifacts. And everyone gets that social media is great for its networking effects, and everyone wants their commercial message to find its way into the networks and there to be distributed and redistributed by people to one another in their social networks. Everyone's looking for that sudden spread, that viral spread, is to use what's now the cliche. And the question is, well, sure, it's really good as a means of distribution, and now the message comes to us, in a Twitter stream or on Facebook or by some social media, and it's been pre-selected. Nobody's going to send it to us unless they believe it actually works has something to say to our sensibility. So the selection process is terrific. The question is, what's being distributed? And you think about the sheer limitations of the tweet and the relatively few words and images and sounds you can press into 140 characters, and even with attachments, it's very hard to move cultural furniture with when that's the only meaning-making instrument you have at your disposal. So that's my argument, is that social media is great after the moment of creation, but in that moment of cultural creation, there's still something to be said for the 30-second spot.
It occurs to me that recently there was this much spread about YouTube video about a guy who could change the video screens in Times Square with his cell phone,
right,
except that he couldn't. It was really an ad for the movie Limitless that went viral, in virtue specifically of completely burying the message, almost to the point of sort of tricking the viewer into thinking something was going on that wasn't, and spreading the message virally. So I wonder if there's a risk that you lose the opportunity to just tell a story and communicate the brand if you're so hooked on how this is going to be spread virally, or how it's going to catch the kind of quicksilver speed of social media.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. I mean, at its worst, I think there's a tendency in the social media making community to go for the stunt, or to go for the laughing cats, or something that's unapologetically stupid. Everyone's a little uncomfortable with that viral metaphor, because, if you take the metaphor seriously, it's about people being infected without consent with something of which they are then the carrier, and which they then spread. And so everyone thought, gee, that's not a very pleasant way, actually, to think about the movement of messages in a social world. There's no choice being exercised. And so the stunt stuff seemed to me to play to that metaphor, to the extent that it said, let's create something so stupid or so sensational or so provocative that people will be obliged to talk about it with their friends. And now we're a really long way away from that Volvo ad, which is all about sensationally gifted control of the social artifact, whereas stunts, not so much.
It seems in a way that there's a lot of sort of just get a Twitter account and that'll fix everything going on. I mean, what do you think is the sort of proper scope for social media in advertising then?
Yeah, that's a real tough one, and I think we're still learning. I mean, I was really impressed with the Ford Fiesta campaign, I think they called it. what they did there was some really interesting kinds of ways of engaging people who were conspicuous and gifted content creators online, and they reached out to them and they gave them fiestas and they said, listen, we don't care what you do, we know you're interesting, so we'll give you assignments, and one was, please drive your fiesta until you run out of gas. And they put a little video camera. You watch the guy as he drives around waiting for his car to run out of gas. And they've randomized this guy's life, and he's quite charmed to have his life randomized. And when he talks about the experience, he talks in a way that I think speaks on behalf of or helps build the brand in some interesting ways. So that's not a 30-second spot. It's more interesting than a 30-second spot because it takes a real person, puts them in a real situation, and randomizes the outcome of that situation. So that's all good. The bad news is that the Fiesta sales have not been good. So it looks as if, for all of its brilliance, that's not the way social media can make a difference. And so, which is to say, the obvious, which is these are early days and everyone's still experimenting.
Grant, thanks so much for talking to us.
Oh, my pleasure, Nora. Thank you.
Grant McLuhan is a cultural anthropologist, a speaker, and a writer. His latest book is Chief Culture Officer, How to Create a Living, Breathing Corporation. We've been having a good old yap at the blog about our memories of iconic 30-second ad spots and whether they have a future in a rapid-fire social media world. When Ian Lowe from Toronto got thinking about iconic ad campaigns, the Fabergé Organic Shampoo commercial from the 70s and 80s came to mind.
This is an ad that managed to get pretty deep hooks culturally for the time.
When I first tried Fabergé Organic Shampoo with pure wheat germ oil and honey, it was so good I told 2 friends about it, and they told 2 friends, and so on, and so on, and so on.
And people of a certain generation might still be caught thinking about it anytime somebody mentions spreading an idea virally.
While we don't have many ads like that anymore, listener Maura Hanley brings up a good point about the evolution of ad spots.
I think in the past, they were really based on audio cues. And the one that I can never forget, 2 all-beef patty special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickled onions on a sesame seed bun. I think what we're seeing today, though, is a new power in memorable and repeatable visual rather than audio memes. We can now easily copy or share video, show off in the schoolyard by playing that cool ad on your phone instead of singing the Big Mac song. And I think we're going to see more of them in the future.
Graham from Burlington called to tell us that these types of commercials are not really that relevant anymore.
My immediate response is that I wonder if there really will ever be another iconic advertising campaign. I mean, there's still room for a 30-second ad spot to have impact. However, the widespread shared experience is just not there. Anyhow, that's my thoughts. Thanks, Nora. Keep sparking.
Thanks to everyone who called in. I learned a lot today, so much so that I might tell 2 friends. And hopefully they'll tell 2 friends. And they'll tell 2 friends. And so on, and so on, and so on. Still ahead on Spark, tell me, is there something irreplaceable about being flesh and blood? About having this body and this brain in the here and now? Or is your mind something you could upload? Yup. Inside whole brain emulation. And digital technology seems to make physical tactile media obsolete. One shiny device can replace all our music albums, framed photos, and pinball machines. But maybe there's something about the sense of touch that we humans can't do without. That's coming up when Spark continues.